Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something I haven't done in a while actually, a fall forecast and discussion. This is going to be our first. I'm sure going to be making a couple more of these, of course, through the later part of the summer months, just to discuss how this fall could potentially turn out. Before I get started, however, be sure to like and subscribe. I've heard that over 80% of you guys are not subscribed, and it's free, so be sure to subscribe and also ring the bell notifications. And let's get on with the video. So we're going to start off with some models here. We have the CFS model and the CANSIPS model, just to show, as of right now, what those models are calling for this winter. Now, these are long-range model forecasts, so do keep that in mind. I also do have some maps that I made to show. NOAA does allow you to make some maps based on like what they give you, so I was able to make a map for that, just like climatologically what we normally see, and some more maps as well. So let's get right into it here, starting with the CFS model. This is their latest outlook for September. As you can see, they do have 0, 6, and 18Z model runs, pretty much running every day. So as you can see, for September, the latest CFS model, this is the V2. So remember, this is a run of like 12 forecasts. And you can see the southeast and maybe even parts of the mid-Atlantic are a little bit below average in terms of temperature. We're also going to be looking at precipitation here. But the west is above average according to this as well. Northern plains and even the northeast are above average. All right, so that's for September. For October, the south central and southeast remains average, maybe slightly below average in parts of the south central, but then at this point, everywhere else is remaining above average. It's almost kind of like we have a jet stream that kind of goes like this, and then, kind of like this, and then we have like a little low. If little low pressure systems come across the south during the fall, sometimes that can like cool them down a little bit. So that could be the case as well. And then November, according to this model, they pretty much have the temperature is like well above average for pretty much the entire United States. And here we have precipitation. Now keep in mind for the fall, we're going to be looking at September, October, and November. Those are the 3 months we're going to be looking at here. So precipitation, same model here. So for September, you have the mid-Atlantic and southeast kind of like dry a little bit. Then the Great Lakes region, maybe above average precipitation, so maybe some lake effect during the fall months. And then for the West Coast, probably some average precipitation, which is better. At least it's not drier than average, but it can still be dry out there in the fall anyway. For October, all right, this is when the Ohio Valley, maybe in the Northeast, starts to get a little bit above average precipitation. Again, one model run. Keep that in mind as well. The West, a bit drier than average, but nothing too, like there's no like deep yellows like you kind of see down in Florida. All right, so that's for October. And then November, kind of like the coastal Northeast, basically from like Washington D.C. up through Maine, above average precip, as well as for the Northwest. All right, and maybe some drier times for the Southeast and the Four Corners region. Okay, again, that's for November for this model run. Next model is CANSIPS, and again, we're going to start out with temperature. Now they have pretty much like a high pressure building over the Northeast here, and it's kind of keeping it warm up here. It feels like an offshore high that helps like bring in the warmer air, like kind of like what happens during the summertime, what's happening right now. So that could be a possibility. Maybe Florida and the Southeast, maybe average temperatures, but they pretty much have warm air through October. And November, maybe parts of the southern mid-Atlantic and Southeast are average to below average for temperature speaking for November. All right, precip for the same model here. Now they have above average precip, all right, for the Southeast here for the September timeframe. October, the East, pretty much like the Southeast, maybe even the Northeast as well, some above average precip. And then by November, though, they do call for some drier times. So let's move on to some of the Nino 3-4, because, of course, whether it's La Nina, Neutral, or El Nino, does really matter. Now, the latest Nino 3-4, again, is from the Bureau of Meteorology. This was just made like a few days ago on July 3rd. And you can see we are still currently in a neutral phase. We could be heading back towards La Nina, apparently. According to this, again, this is September through November right in here. So, does it get back to La Nina, in time for the fall? That I don't quite know. If it's neutral, I'm thinking that fall and winter can sometimes have like a similar effect. So, maybe a neutral, ENSO neutral could possibly lead to a snowier fall in the east part of the country. The west, maybe not so much. We're going to be talking about what La Nina does for the winter time as well, because the two patterns are pretty similar. Now remember, as soon as it doesn't necessarily become La Nina as soon as it touches that blue, right? It does have to stay there for a little bit, but even if it does get down there, even if it first drops to La Nina, that's still technically considered La Nina conditions. If it does start dropping down there again, and then what happens for the winter time? All right, does it go back up to neutral in time? Okay, we don't really know from beyond this point. We are going to be looking at other maps as well, but I do want to focus on the fall specifically. Obviously, we're going to be doing a separate discussion for the winter time as well. Don't worry about it. September through November, that's what we're focusing on, and potentially, according to this, looks like a La Nina. At least that's what these set of spaghetti models have come to a consensus, right? That isn't to say that some of them do keep it in neutral. That's very well a possibility. All right, and some of them plunge into a deeper La Nina. It's also a possibility. All the green line is telling us is the mean of the average of all these spaghetti models. All right, so let's look at 7 models here. You might know them. BOM, that is the Bureau of Meteorology. CANSIPS, I just showed you earlier. We got the Euro, the JMA, the Meteo, the NOAA, and the UKMO. And then the bottom one is just like an average of all the forecasts. So you can see for September, all right, they almost sound the same. I don't know why. The NOAA and the Bureau of Meteorology model, of course, the Bureau of Meteorology model was the one we just showed you, like right here. All right, so that, of course, that would make sense that we are in a La Nina. I think the Bureau of Meteorology model might be that green line. They might base their actual forecast off of these set of spaghetti models, so I think that's why that correlates to this map here. But anyway, most of the models, including the Euro, do still have us in a neutral, including the UKMO as well. As we head towards October, notice how everything starts moving left a little bit. So we're progressing towards La Nina. It doesn't mean we're there. We're progressing towards La Nina. As you can see, the mean is negative 0.5, which by our American standards is La Nina. By Australian standards, it's negative 0.8, technically. For November, notice how that mean, look where we started, at just short of negative 0.4, then we go to negative 0.5. Now we're negative 0.67 maybe. So November, again, most models are still in a neutral out of these set, except for the NOAA and the Bureau of Meteorology, maybe UKMO as well. By American standards, they are technically in La Nina status. So we're going to be watching this very closely, of course. But we're going to be going over, because obviously it looks like at this point, I don't think an El Nino could still happen for the winter. I'm not going to doubt it just yet. I am a little bit. But as for the fall, what we're talking about here, I honestly think it's between either Enso Neutral or La Nina. So we're going to go over what can happen if we have. So these are kind of like the maps that you can make on NOAA. All right, so you can see this is for, I believe this is for La Nina. All right, so this is the La Nina map. This is the temperature map. So you can see how now remember, we also have to account for that these are now the 1991 to 2020 averages. I know we used to look at the 1981 to 2010 averages. Of course, that's why our hurricane season numbers, our average number of named storms and hurricanes did increase because we got the new set of averages in. So in 2031, we're going to probably have the 2001 to 2030 averages. All right, so we got the new set of averages in, so that might, of course, we're getting newer data. Of course, that's always nice to hear. So for temperatures, according to the climatology here, across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, maybe even interior Northeast, you guys typically, I mean, it's not by a long shot, but you do see above average temperatures during the fall, again, September through November, if we have La Nina conditions. And for the West, it actually could be slightly cooler, as well as the Southeast, specifically the Gulf Coast, as well as the Florida Peninsula and the Panhandle. So the entire state of Florida usually can be cooler. Again, both of these contours here, I mean, maybe up to 0.5 or 0.75, and then as for the cooler side of things, it only gets as low as like negative 0.5. So it's not drastic. It's not like seeing deeper blue colors. That would mean intense correlation, but we're not seeing that. Of course, the colors are kind of light. We do see a bit more correlation, though, because the precipitation during La Nina pretty much dry for a lot of people. All right, I don't want you to necessarily nitpick every single county. I like to look at trends that I see. For example, like these regions here, you can see the region, right? The Southeast, the portions of the Southern Ohio Valley, you guys can be drier. The North Central Plains, you guys could potentially be drier. Same thing for the Northern Mid-Atlantic up through the Northeast. And then the West, for the most part, the Washington, Oregon, California coastline maybe you guys could see some above average precipitation. So cool and wet, we would like to see that. Although the Four Corners region, at least the upper two states, Utah and Colorado, do look a bit drier. I don't want you to necessarily nitpick every single county. Look at like a region as a whole, and then see where you are from there. Because Oklahoma, one county, it's usually drier during La Nina conditions, and the next county over, it's usually wetter. So definitely want to look at the regions. And the more intense area actually is Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. And Texas honestly could use a break from the precipitation because you saw the Gulf Coast there, double-digit rainfall in many areas there over just the past few days. So it's been pretty bad over there. All right. So what can happen now if we were to have an Enso Neutral? Okay, this is an Enso Neutral. What can happen to our temperatures for the fall? Well, you see it here. All right. Below average temperatures pretty much for the entire country except for like literally except for one county in southeastern Utah. You ruined it, Utah. I'm kidding. But you could see pretty much the entire country, like 99.9% of the entire country, can be a little bit cooler. All right, I mean that can happen. I'm not saying it. That doesn't mean that the whole entire country is going to be cooler all the time. But notice in the Northeast and the Great Lakes, see how there's more teal colors instead of green? Well, that means you're a bit farther below on the scale, maybe between 1 and 1.5, as opposed to the entire country, which is like between 0.5 and 1. So maybe slightly cooler than the rest of the country, but more of a departure from average in the Northeast. I don't know if you can tell the color difference. But even the West, right? You see those more yellowish green colors appear here as opposed to the more bluish colors. So just a trend that I see. The Northeast by climatological standards from 1991 to 2020. All right. So, and now not all these years that I chose obviously are between 1991 to 2020. But that's where we're comparing the average to. All right, we're comparing all of these years to 1991 to 2020, if that makes sense. And then what can our precipitation be like? Well, according to climatology and with the years that I chose, which have been Enso neutral years, the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic appear slightly drier, or actually I would say moderately dry, and then the Ohio Valley, maybe back towards the Central Plains. I would say more so Kansas City, points northeastward towards Detroit by climatological standards. Slightly on the wetter side, even for the interior and northern Northeast. Washington, Oregon, maybe a little drier, but the West in general, pretty much average for precipitation if we were to see an Enso neutral. All right, now we're going to look at some more maps here. Now here's something that I did actually find pretty interesting. All right, so this is a map of the sea surface, well, I should say the sea subsurface in the equatorial Pacific, like where that Nino 3-4 region is. And you can see that this is the latitude, or excuse me, the longitude, and then up and down the graph, obviously top of the graph is like closer to the ocean surface, or the top of the graph is the ocean surface pretty much. Bottom of the graph is deeper below, and you can see that what we had started to see here through May. All right, and it did wither away a little bit, but the warmer water just below the ocean surface. So does that mean El Nino is making a comeback? Again, this could mean El Nino could come back long term, either maybe next winter or spring. All right, I don't think it's honest. I don't think there's a chance, or there's very, very tiny chance it comes back for the fall, because considering like we're in a neutral right now, we just came out of a La Nina, so usually it doesn't rise that drastically, but it can. The most recent map here, June 27th, as you can see, the sea surface is mostly white. We do have a little mix over here, but for the most part, sea surface is average, but just below, the sea subsurface is sort of above average here. And you can see here, negative sea subsurface temperature anomalies have emerged in the east central and eastern Pacific depths. As you can see, they're talking about these kind of blue dots right here. So this is from June 10th here, and we might get another one soon. We might get another update to this. Not often sure how these update, maybe every month or so around there. So Enso Neutral is favored through the Northern Hemisphere summer, with chances of La Nina increasing into the fall and winter of 21 and 22. All right, so notice how Enso Neutral kind of dominates all the way through about September. When you look at these months, by the way, I know it's kind of tough to figure out. Look at the middle months. So this is June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Now, sometimes So you might be thinking, well, why did they include all three then, like all 3 months? That's because this can sometimes mean end of August, September, and beginning of October. Sometimes that's how that works. But just look at the middle number. It's kind of middle letter, excuse me, and it's easier. So as you can see, neutral, again, American standards is between negative 0.5 and 0.5. So anything outside of there is El Nino or La Nina. But you can see chances of neutral are higher than 50% and higher than La Nina, by the way. All right, all the way through September and even October. Neutral there is a better chance of it, just about a 50% chance for October. Then it flips a little bit. La Nina maybe November, December, January, but then look what happens in February. Chances of neutral increase above La Nina odds again. But notice one thing though, El Nino pretty much stays low. Poor El Nino hasn't gotten a chance in it for a while. All right, so as you can see from these set of model predictions here, right, that the models do sort of keep in a La Nina. Some do bring it. Remember, La Nina is pretty much anything like down here. That's like La Nina. Most of the models honestly do have us in a neutral phase because that's everything above between negative 0.5 and 0.5. So most, I gotta say, most do have it in a more of a neutral standpoint. All right, at least through some point. Again, September, October, November. I'd say this is the time frame we're looking at here. All right. So in the models, there's really not that much agreement in the models. Short term, yes. Long term, not necessarily. That's how the models can be. All right. And again, you can see the green, blue, and red lines. You see a CPC console and some stat averages as well. And you can see mostly these models are keeping us either in a very weak La Nina. Most do keep us in a potentially neutral phase. Now, here's something interesting as well. These are the Nino 3, 4, kind of like the CFS. I was showing you that model at the beginning of the video. As you can see, we're at a neutral now, right? As you can see, we just came out of a La Nina here. Now, according to this, maybe plunging towards a La Nina, September, October, November, then back to a neutral possibly, or at least curving towards that way, back for the winter time. That is certainly a possibility, right? Look at the La Nina. Look how it builds. October, November, all right, December, but look how it starts waning away a little by little, January through February, and that makes sense because it's curving back up almost in more like a U shape. Just to show you real quick what La Nina and neutral can do for the wintertime, because sometimes they can be similar to the late fall. So as you can see, La Nina colder air comes in from Canada. It is wetter in the Ohio Valley. It is warmer and drier, especially towards the Gulf Coast. Drier for the Four Corners, and wetter for the northwestern United States. As you saw, some of the models we showed at the beginning of the video were kind of pointing towards some of those things. I'm not saying that doesn't mean they're right at all, but I'm just saying the model was pointing towards that. The neutral winter pattern, this can even occur for the fall as well. Cold air comes in from Canada, but this time it comes into the northern plains and the northeast. Instead of warm and dry, the southeast can tend to be warm and wet. While the southwest is pretty much still warm anyway, but they can be wet due to that Pacific jet stream, but the subtropical jet is a bit more powerful and more, precipitation enhancing than the Pacific jet can be sometimes. But the Pacific jet is known from some big storms, so maybe I would even say warm and wet, possibly for the west as well. So thank you guys for watching. Again, be sure to stay tuned for more fall forecast and discussion updates. Same for winter. And even hurricane season updates as well. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time, don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.